What's up, guys? My name is Isaac Poti, and I am the host from Tales from the Tailboard. Tales from the Tailboard podcast is a first responder podcast built around honest, no bullshit conversations. This isn't about looking good in uniform, it's about performing in it, living with it, and understanding what the job does to us mentally, emotionally, and culturally. We bring in voices from fire, EMS, dispatch, law enforcement, healthcare, and beyond, and sometimes it's just me talking through the things we don't say out loud. Welcome into my guest, Chrissy. Chrissy, will you just tell us about yourself and give us your intro?
Warning. The opinions expressed in this content are those of the host and its guests.
Services allow that.
Doing paramedic AF.
Every car with a ballistic shield.
Things the fire service can't stand.
Here, same day, created a new account. Got
fast here. Like they're amazing. Absolutely. My name is Chrissy Gibas. I'm located in Trumbull County area of Ohio, where it's super cold today. I am retired law enforcement and have recently taken on canine first responder therapy, and he is also a human remains detection dog.
That's awesome. So how many years were you in law enforcement?
I was going to show my age here, but I started way back in the early 99, 2000 era. And worked through law enforcement for about 8 years until I had an incident at work that put me out medically. And then I started into dispatching part-time, needed to stay in the environment. You know how it works. We all have multi-jobs, in this first responder community. I dispatched for about another 13 years. Until I went ahead and stopped doing that and devoted my time completely to the dog.
So your first ever in first response was being a police officer?
Was being a police officer in my early 20s. And my late husband was also, he flew for Stat Medevac. He was a full-time lieutenant on a fire department. So it just fit the mold. We were already in first responder family atmosphere when I decided I took an interest in law enforcement, decided to go to the academy and go for it. And it was probably, in hindsight, one of the best decisions and worst decisions I ever made.
Well, aftermath is always the case for cause of thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're getting into some questions here, and you kind of breached on a little bit, but that's we're really gonna break it down with the questions and really get into the meat and potatoes of the episode.
Great.
So the opening background, can you walk us through your time in law enforcement and what ultimately led you to your retirement in 2005?
Yes. This is all going to tie together with how I ended up with the crisis canine as well. Like I said, I started out in my early 20s, went to the police academy, got hired on to one of our local sheriff's departments. Everything was going great. Very welcoming. It fit the atmosphere that I was used to being in. Everything was going well. Very much enjoyed my job and my coworkers. And like I said, you felt like family. And it was just this incredible feeling. Later on in 2001, I unfortunately had a inmate attack, and I had worked the jail at the time. And this incident, unfortunately, came with a lot of backlash. It wasn't just an attack that I had to deal with at the time. It was, I had to deal with that issue itself, where I had to kind of work through. When you think something's not going to happen like that, it does. And it kind of rocks your world for a minute. So with that said, my injuries were minimal to me at the time. It was more of the psychological part of it, of just kind of getting back on the horse and getting back to work. And I was okay with that. There wasn't a lot of talk at the time of the incident, whether I was okay, not okay. It was just get back to work. And I did. And I thought, okay, this is how this works. You just out of sight, out of mind. It happened. That was yesterday. Today's today. That worked for me for a while until, you play it over and over and over in your head for several weeks after an incident like that. whether it's a big incident. For some people, it could take that really big incident, or it could take a very small situation. Everybody's different in that sense, but you play it over and over and over again. And I thought at the time, the best way to overcome it was just keep hitting it head on. Go in, normal day. Do your job. Don't think about it. Make it normal. Make how you feel normal.
Did you feel like you were going to be weak if you didn't do it?
I did, especially in the sense of it was surprising to me that no one was really reaching out. Hey, are you okay? Are you okay going back up to this floor? Are you sleeping okay? All the typical, almost just a friend-to-friend conversation you expect to have with somebody wasn't happening. It was almost like it was a situation where you felt like you were outside your body and everybody else is just like, you're like in there like, hey, I'm over here, and everybody's on the outside ignoring it, just completely like it never happened. So it teaches you to just, okay, this isn't as big of a deal as I feel like it is. I need to just pretend that nothing's going on, because if I do, I'm going to look like it's a problem. I have a problem. I'm weak. I can't do the job. And that was the last thing I wanted.
Was that your thoughts, like internal thoughts of how this was playing out, or did you intentionally try to reach out and say, "Hey, I'm hurting. I need someone to talk to"?
No.
Do you think that played a role into it?
Absolutely, and I think that process alone played a huge role into why I ended up leaving law enforcement. And I feel like had that setting been differently, where I felt comfortable saying, hey, I'm not okay, I may have been able to process that situation differently. Would it have completely changed the outcome psychologically, or the things that you have to go through and the steps that you have to take to kind of recover from a situation? Probably not. They're always going to be there to a degree. Do I think the severity would have been where it is for me still to this day? Absolutely not. Because I held that in for so long, and I kept trying to function, and it burned me out, and it almost made the situation worse. Sometimes when you can talk, you talk through it, and you can actually kind of give yourself that therapy when you hear it out loud and go, okay, I did that. I made it through it. I'm okay. But when that communication and that invitation to talk isn't there, you almost build it up over the years. Every time you relive it, or you're struggling in a situation and you're sucking it in, it's almost making the problem way bigger than it started. And that tends to make it more traumatic. It's just repetitive trauma over and over because you're not processing it.
Knowing what you know now, would you change, if you could go back and change those particulars? Would you have done it? Would you have spoken out and said, hey, I'm not okay now, or then, now that you know this?
I will say this. If it would have been the situation where the atmosphere was what it was 20 years ago, I still wouldn't have said anything. If I would be able to take what is happening now in the first responder fields and the way that we look at mental health, yeah, I would have spoke out. But in all honesty, I don't think, looking back with my experiences now, I still would have spoke out then. Because it was just such a wall of keep it quiet. And the reason I say that,
to the way you felt.
Yes. And the reason I say that too is because it was more than just the attack. There was a lot of events that transpired after that attack, where we had a lot of active investigations going on. And unfortunately, some of my coworkers took it upon themselves with this inmate, and it escalated very quickly. And so I had a multitude of trauma all at one time. So I had an inmate attack, and you're trying to process that whole situation because you feel invincible. You do, especially when you're young and you take on anything in a first responder atmosphere. You somewhat have that adrenaline, I'm invincible. So when it kind of crashes in front of your face for a minute, it'll shake you. could that have been a great experience to kind of shake you and make you and mold you better throughout your years of service? Absolutely. However, you take that, then you take active investigations within your department, and you feel, even though you're not responsible, you feel so responsible for what's happening.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of threats. There was, I was threatened every day. People were afraid I was going to talk about what happened or what I knew, what I didn't know. And that
Was it
fear,
because they broke protocol?
they broke protocol significantly. And, because it was an incident that happened to me, I felt like I was very cornered in the sense of, people were threatening me to not talk. Don't say anything. And here I am thinking to myself, but I don't know anything. But I can't say anything either. Do you know what I mean? So you
Like,
can't.
you don't really
compact.
know what happened, but you know what you saw in that moment, which
I
really
know.
didn't.
And then had no effect
Exactly.
on what they did. But I don't at the time didn't know what was going on. And they kind of purposely kept me out of the loop, which I'm thankful for. However, that was always a conflicting issue where it was like, well, because you were attacked, this happened. Well, I can't control what somebody else did. But then that constant don't talk, shut down, the threats, the intimidation, it almost became unbearable where, and I made this comment years ago that you put me in a room full of inmates, violent offenses. I'm comfortable because I know my job. I know how to do it. I'm comfortable. You put me in a room full of my peers and I'm scared.
Well,
That shift is huge.
What's funny is like people don't really take into account that criminals they did what they did to others that they may know, right?
Right.
Like nobody just is a criminal or does violent things, or at least not all the time, to people they just don't know. So when you walk into that room of people that you know, their crimes, while they may not be against the law, are still major in your eyes because it was to the person that's the criminal.
It makes it very personal.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Absolutely.
So you add that on top of the trauma that you're already trying to process, that ability to talk to your peers, you lose that trust. You lose it very quickly when people start second guessing you or second guessing, everybody gets scared when they, investigations are going on. It's like, if I talk to that person, somebody that's investigating is going to think I'm involved. So I just pretend like I don't know them.
Okay.
That was hard.
So that's a good question, bringing the investigation part up. How did the investigation, despite you not being really involved, compound the trauma you were already carrying?
It compounded it significantly in the sense of the ability to trust didn't even exist for me. It compounded the situation as well in the sense that I couldn't talk out what happened to me. Because one, nobody was offering the "are you okay?" But during an investigation, you're not really at liberty to tell anybody what happened. So I had to hold that for a very long time because I didn't have that ability to speak about it because it was an active investigation. So I never had that outlet of going, hey, this is what happened. This is how I feel, and answering questions or letting people know what really truly happened. I couldn't speak. So that significantly compounded the issue for me. So I kind of just, because of the trauma, I just internally just shut down. It was almost like your brain just shuts it off because you can't find a way to process it. You have no outlet. And that made my situation so much worse that by 2005, I made the decision that it was getting to the point that I just didn't want to go into work. Like I would have a panic attack thinking about how the day was going to go. When you have people that you work with and you trust saying, I hope nothing happens to you today or you call for backup because we're not coming. That intimidation. It's like, how do you go into work? So that kind of at that point, just, I couldn't wait it out for the process for people around me acting like that to realize, hey, wait a second. Like, we shouldn't be doing that to her. She had nothing to do with any of this. I couldn't wait it out. And I medically took, that's about the point that I think I realized what PTSD was, and what I was feeling was normal in the sense of trying to process all of this and how I was physically reacting to these situations. I mean, the panic attacks trying to get to work, the, depression, not wanting to leave the house. I didn't want to run into people. I didn't want to encounter things. I avoided everything like the plague. That got the best of me. And I tried to work another 2 years out. During that 2 years, this investigation was still going on. And I thought, this is never going to end. And I needed an outlet, and I wasn't finding it within my law enforcement family. So I made the decision to retire out early. And, do I miss that job every day? Yes. Do I miss that environment and type of situation? Absolutely not. And I had to just decide for my own mental health what was the better choice. And I left.
So we've talked about a lot about the investigation, but we really haven't talked about what the investigation, like what caused the investigation. So what do you feel comfortable about sharing about the inmate attack and the environment that surrounded it afterwards?
Okay. So I have to keep it somewhat minimal, but
you're fine.
In a nutshell, I had an inmate that was going after another gang member, convinced another deputy to radio me to open a door so that they could get to the other inmate. In the process of that, the deputy called me on the radio. I went to the door. I mean, who wouldn't? That's what, we're communicating. Hey, can you meet me here? Absolutely. Ultimately, those inmates were trying to get through to my side that I was working to get to another gang member. I was caught in the middle of it all during my attack. So with that said, I finished out that night while this attack had happened. While I was scheduled off, the way we worked, I was off the next 3 days. So I'm at home after this. I have no idea what's going on. Several of the higher ups put an order out to have the inmate put in the hospital. So when I came back to work, I found that this inmate was actually taken out and assaulted himself and put in the ICU. So this investigation transpired with the FBI as far as what the higher ups had ordered. And they learned about the assault and why the higher ups put this order out to have this done to the inmate. So I had to deal with, okay, now I've got people that I work with are now under investigation for what they've now done to this inmate. And you've got higher ups that are now very worried because they're now being investigated. So the amount of threats and intimidation that were coming, because people were going to lose their jobs. They were going to go to jail. And, that was a very hard thing to walk back into. I was shocked. And at that point, I wasn't able to discuss any part of my assault because it's now this big blown up investigation. Like when I say you couldn't make this stuff up, it should have been a movie. Like it was just mind blowing to me what was happening around me. So the investigation really came down to, it was almost a 2-year investigation with the FBI investigating how this happened and how the deputies ended up assaulting this inmate, who then filed a civil lawsuit. So we had to go through the whole civil lawsuit part of it. I fortunately never had to testify, which was great on my part. But it really turned itself around where it was a situation where I had to answer the questions of what I knew, didn't know. And then it turned into almost where I had to be kind of watched over as a witness for the FBI. So then all of a sudden you're seeing your coworkers go, hey, what's she doing? What does she know? What doesn't she know? And that whole intimidation factor kicked in. Ultimately, several deputies as well as 2 higher command officers ended up going to prison over this. Yeah.
So this is a huge ordeal. Not that I was making any light of it, but it's a lot bigger than just.
It was a drawn out event that started here as an assault and then just spiraled into this large investigation where, you're on the news. I'm trying to deal with the trauma of the assault, and here every night I'm seeing my face on the news as the deputy that was assaulted that now has transpired this FBI investigation. So it was just like continual. I never got away from it, ever. And then after that happened, I had to deal with the inmate. They obviously moved him from that county to somewhere else, after this happened. And he was calling me from prison. And he would call me at home and threaten me. And because now he's twice as upset because, he got put in the ICU over this. So here I am in a situation where somebody's holding me responsible again. So I dealt with the inmate calling my house, and I'm thinking to myself, how did he get my number? He knows where I live. He knows everything I'm doing. And he was a member of the Crips. His father was high up in the Crip gang. So I then had to worry about that, where he knows where I'm at, what I'm doing. Fortunately, the marshals from time to time would call me and say, hey, he's back in custody. He's not, just so that I knew when he was in jail and when he wasn't. To this day, he still lives in this area. And it's hard for me to go places sometimes because I know he's there.
Have you ever thought about moving to a different state?
Yes and no, but I feel very defeated if I do. Do you know what I mean? Like, you try to learn to deal with your traumas and your triggers, and you have to find a way to make it normal and livable that you can deal with. That took a very long time. Very long time. I contemplated that for years. It was, what do I do? Do I just run? I didn't want to run. I had a family here. I had, a daughter in school, and it was like, do you uproot everything, or do you find a way to face it and try to figure out how to make this the best situation you can from such negativity? No, am I better? No. Am I ever truly going to be better from all of this? No. Am I finding ways to cope and make something positive, i.e. doing the first responder therapy? Absolutely. So I've almost had to form my own way to do therapy for myself. And I have found by doing this, it gives me an outlet to talk. I feel like if I could take my experience and somebody else doesn't have to go through it the way I did, they may be able to stay in their career. They can find the help. If I can make one person understand now that it's okay to say you're not okay. It's okay to call that person and say, listen, I had a really bad night. I was up with nightmares all night. Hey, I know you're having a function today, but I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack. I don't know if I can make it. To have that support where somebody says, well, why don't I come get you? Let's go together. Oh my gosh, that would have changed so much for me. May not have fixed everything, but it would have changed things.
Oh, yeah.
So I find that by doing this is my form of therapy to get it out.
So, I wanted to just clarify on a thing because, I do have a bit of a following with, not huge, but I do have a lot of trauma therapists and things like that follow me. To earn credibility for yourself, right? You're not claiming to be like a trauma therapist or anything like that. I'm just you?
A fellow responder who knows what it feels like to try to deal with some traumatic experiences in careers like this. And if I can just be a sounding board for somebody that may just need to have that conversation, just a friend to talk to, that support to go, hey, are you okay? Are you not okay? You can call me. What's going on? I
So
don't
like,
have all of the answers, but I'll help you find them.
so you're saying you're not like, and I don't mean to make this sound bad to
No,
discredit you because you're not. But like you're not telling people that you are this certified counselor and trauma therapist. You're basically saying, hey, I'm peer support, and if you need somebody,
absolutely.
I'm here.
Absolutely. And I have found that through the peer support, and of course, I've educated myself along the way in the sense of how to assist somebody in a crisis as a peer support person, so that I can have the avenues that maybe, hey, like I said, I don't have the answers. There's really sometimes I feel like when you're trying to do peer support, there's really no right answer. Sometimes it's more of about listening and trying to, well, what do you need? Well, I need a counselor. Well, let's look into some. Let's find you what you need. Almost
Exactly.
being that structural support that one person needs in their moment of crisis.
You're like that friend, the middleman
Absolutely.
of someone that goes to it says, hey, I think I need these things, but I don't know for sure. And you've
Let's
done the
find
research,
somebody.
and you've done what you need to do.
Yes.
And then you could be like, yeah, I think you do. Here's my recommendations.
Let's find somebody who does know what to tell you and where
And the
to
reason
go.
the reason why I bring all this up is because I don't know if you're familiar with a video that came out a while back, probably now about a month, 2 weeks back now. A lady came on, made a TikTok video, and she said that she is a first responder trauma therapist, and that she knows how to do this because she's had 4 years of correction officers training, and most of her time was spent with first responders and with corrections officers. So that gave her, quote unquote, the right to therapy first responders for trauma based off of her, quote unquote, acquaintances.
Yeah, no, I couldn't find the therapy myself, let alone be able to tell somebody that I can provide them with any therapy. No, what I can provide is a sounding board of, I'm here if you need to talk.
I love that.
And that's a shame that people are willing to go that far. I mean, if you have any experience in first responder, fire, EMS, it doesn't matter, any of them. If you truly had any experience, a year, 4, 20, then you yourself know that none of us are truly equipped to handle what all of us are dealing with.
Absolutely.
That takes a trained professional. So I found that the way that I could incorporate some of this with the peer support is educating a lot of the first responders in the sense of the peer support part of it and how the canine therapy comes into play. So people think of canine therapy as your therapy dogs that go into the schools or the nursing homes, or, people with disabilities need a service dog. What the canine therapy programs are more designed around is I act as a peer support person. The dog acts as the almost liaison to the programs. So we think of it in the sense of, hey, you may need to talk, and I think maybe you're not okay. Or say we had an officer involved shooting here, for example. I would be called in and, hey, do you need to talk? Are you good? Take a walk with the dog. Sit down with the dog. Sometimes, people, it's hard because we all, as responders, still have that same stigma of I'm fine, I'm okay. It's very hard to have a conversation or open up about. But you bring a dog into the situation, that is your normal. That is your safety net. Where all of a sudden the dog breaks the monotony of a person staring across from you going, and like you feel like you're being super analyzed in your brain at that moment. Like, no, I don't think you're okay. I'm watching everything you're doing, everything you're saying. But you bring the dog in and it changes the atmosphere. And that is really my goal with doing this is being able to provide that outlet with an animal. I see a huge difference in responders when they're around the dog. And that's what really the light bulb went off for me. I started this dog in human remains detection. I didn't have a goal of doing what I'm doing with him. But I found that as I showed up at the fire departments or the police departments or events, the change in the people around me, as soon as the dog would come around, you could see the reactions. People that were, it was kind of a stuffy room and nobody was talking. The dog comes in, all of a sudden everybody's having conversations. And I noticed how different it was when you truly bring in a dog to a situation, in a crisis situation where everybody's on edge. Everybody's trying to hide whether they're okay, not okay, how it affected them. And it's like this big elephant in the room, but you bring the dog in and it makes the room normal again for a little bit.
Oh,
and it gives you time to decompress what's happening around you. Gives you that mental break where you don't have to think about it for a minute. It's just a reset. And sometimes I feel like that's what a lot of us need, is just that little bit of time to process and a reset with, support from your peers. Not that always constant, like, analyzing you till you're afraid to talk. I found that a lot. And over the years, there is a tremendous need for, in this line of work, it's not just normal therapy. I've learned to understand that over the years. You can. It's not a cookie cutter situation, but having people that are certified in understanding what is truly happening as a first responder to you, where, let's face it, we see a lot of things that it's hard to explain. Sometimes it's more exhausting to try to explain to somebody that doesn't understand what you saw or why it's a big deal. You're too exhausted to explain all of that, let alone to think that they're going to get how you're feeling by the time you're done describing it. So having the ability to have people truly understand, in the sense, when we have peer support, instead of talking to somebody that has no idea what that call meant or the things that transpired or that you saw or the protocol you had to follow, the trauma that comes with that sometimes, to have a peer that understands what you're talking about, why that was a big deal, what you heard, just simple things like agonal breathing. If you're going to sit in front of somebody that doesn't understand what that is, how do you explain that it bothered you or why it bothered you? By the time you're done giving the details, you've almost kind of repeated the trauma. So it's nice having, and it's great seeing that we now have the ability to have therapists that are more specialized in our fields that can truly understand and help us all process what's happening, and that it's okay that it's happening. That's the big thing. It's okay. You're not damaged. You're not in a position like I felt like I was, where I had to make a choice, give up my job and try to find normal, because I was never given the opportunity for somebody to say to me, it's okay. What you're feeling is normal. You're okay. Let's find you the help that you need. This doesn't mean you're damaged goods or that you can't do your job. Let's figure it out. I feel like now we're finally coming into an era where that let's figure it out is actually happening.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to be part of it. And the way I tried to incorporate myself with that was by adding the canine. And I've had really good responses with it so far. Yeah. And sometimes it's no more than I don't say anything. Sometimes the dog's just going to sit with somebody. Go play with the dog for 10 minutes. They come back, you see that stress has come down off of them a little bit. May not last, but if you can give somebody, 10 minutes sitting with the dog that's, obviously certified in therapy. I do have him certified. That 10 minutes brings your cortisol levels down by 20%. That helps that reduction in burnout. We've all come across that burnout feeling. You just get hit repetitively all the time. Or you bring the dog into situations where, you've had a 24-hour shift and 10 of it has been nothing but back-to-back bad calls. And then all of a sudden your family wants to come down and visit, and your two kids. And I see a lot of the responders trying to just pick themselves back up, like, make it normal. So they don't want to put it on their family. Hey, everything's good. Come in, let's play. The kids are here. Let's go see the trucks. It's exhausting sometimes. So to see the dog come in, and it makes it almost a normal family atmosphere, and it takes a little bit of that responsibility off that first responder that may have been having that bad day.
Absolutely.
The dog acts as a buffer for the family, for the kids, where they can just take that mental break. They don't have to put on that big act for a little bit. They can just relax.
Very true. And I appreciate you for doing that. I mean, it's great, the fact that you do this with Jack, right? And we're going to be getting into Jack here in just a minute. I do have to give a quick shout out to the sponsor up here. Quick shout out to Shift Apparel. This is quality gear made by people who actually understand the first responders and veteran community. Tim Snowden, the founder, builds durable apparel, supports veterans, and runs his business the right way. If you care about who you can support and what you wear, check out Shift Apparel through the link in the bio. So just a little credit to him real quick. He puts my name on shirts and stuff and gets me out there to where I can get seen by more people. So I appreciate Tim over at Shift Apparel doing that for me. Let's see. You didn't talk much about it, but you did bring it up. So we're going to talk about, in 2018, you lost your former husband, a firefighter and a flight paramedic. How did that loss hit differently given the background?
I think I had to, again, that's a situation he was only given 6 months at the time that he got sick, and he was flying for stat medevac, and he ended up making it another 7 years. So with that said, that caretaking role comes into play, which almost puts you in what you know is your normal environment. You learn to take care of people. You put everybody else first, which I did. I found that it was challenging because of my traumas to process that death, because I was used to the don't talk about it, put it away, do what needs done. It was the formality all the time. Forget about how I feel. I'm fine. I got it. I'm good. So I found that when he passed, I had to find a way to process it so that it did not affect me the way that my traumas had affected me. I had to go through more therapy to recognize that you're not weak because you had a bad day or you broke down and you were just mad at everything. It was okay. As a caretaker, it was okay to be like that. It was okay to grieve and not have to go through that formality of shutting down and going, okay, well, now this has happened. So what do we need to do? Like, I actually had to find a way to feel human. And I think in the environment that we're all faced in, we actually tried to teach ourselves to not be human sometimes for ourselves. We're human for everybody else. We humanize everything, but for ourselves, we don't. So I had to really hone that in through therapy to learn that it was okay to process that, and it was okay to not be okay with it. And I had to kind of mourn the whole, not just losing him, but the ties and the family that you're just so used to having every day. You know that's going to change. Everybody's there for you. The family is still there for me, EMS, fire, but it's not the same. So you have to learn to accept the fact that you've kind of changed places in the family with that. So that was kind of a real start over for me in first responders and just that family environment. So I did have to learn to process that death. That was hard. That was different. It's like losing one of your own, because I worked with him. As I worked as a police officer, he was at the fire department. So you're changing your daily routine in your job, and then on top of it, you're changing your daily routine at home. So that was very challenging.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine you go through all of these things, such as the inmate attack and people not supporting you, and then you lose your husband. You're trying to hold on. Were you still dispatching up until the time your husband
I
passed
was.
away?
I was. And I made the decision about a year after, little over a year after. I had a call, and normal stuff. You just do it every day. It's just like, you're a robot. You just get used to it. And one day I had a family member, call in, and their one of their family members was in a breathing crisis, and the certain sounds that I heard reminded me of him passing. And I actually had to remove myself from the call and have another dispatcher take it over. And it was like, wow, I think at that moment I actually started processing what happened in the death. And I thought, I need time away to just regroup. And I did, and I was fine after that, but I recognized that trauma, and it was the time that I needed to take personally for myself, because I'm not doing anybody any good in a situation like that if those are the things that are happening while I'm trying to help someone. So again, through, therapy and recognizing things like that, I was able to step away for a little bit and then be able to come back to it. And then honestly, the dispatching I stopped doing. My daughter went into nursing school. She was finally an adult and going off to college. And I decided, what did I want to do different? What did I want to do now? And then I took on the dog. So it's just a little change of pace.
Yeah, and you breached perfectly into the next section here. So your daughter enters nursing school. You made a decision to adopt Jack and train Jack. Why did you choose a German Shepherd, and what stood out about Jack early on?
I chose a German Shepherd, I think, in all honesty, and this sounds really cheesy, but it's just what I was used to being around with the police departments. I knew that type of dog would take on the discipline easy. Their brains are just phenomenal. I've watched them in action enough to know that he would be sturdy enough to handle what I needed him to do, and smart enough to be able to do it. So
you didn't want a Basset Hound?
No, I didn't want a Basset Hound. Thinking back in hindsight, 2 years later, that would have probably been a better choice. These dogs are very high drive. So he keeps me going. And I actually think in the long run, I needed this. He makes me do sometimes what I don't want to do. Because I can still, to this day, talk myself out of an event, a training class, or honestly, there's days that I just don't want to go get gas in the car. Like you just get that feeling of, I don't want to be out there. I just can't today. He makes me get out. He needs to be walked. He needs to be trained. There's things going on. He pushes me. So I think everything just fell into place the way it was supposed to. But in all honesty, I picked a German Shepherd just because I thought they were really cool and they were really hardy, and I was used to being around them. Did I know what I was getting myself into? Probably not.
So you talked about self-training your dog. Let's breach into the self-training, and then what makes that certified based off of formal training?
Well, I had no formal training whatsoever in human remains detection work. I decided that when I wanted to take this on, one, I'm always very interested in that side of, death and decomposition. I'm kind of a nerd about that stuff. So it was very interesting to me. Honestly, I think part of my trauma kept me from joining some of the groups that are out there. I chose to stay as an individual just because I'm still kind of in that world where I like to function alone sometimes. I don't like to be in big crowds or big groups. So I had to find a way that I could make this work for myself, because I knew there were going to be times that it just was going to be very hard for me to do. That ability to trust people and have those connections sometimes are still hard to this day for me. So I decided to take this on by myself. And I was lucky enough to have a few friends still in the service, and county coroner that he had search and rescue dogs. they kind of helped me put the pieces together
Mhm.
and get me started, which was great. So I became a bookworm. I read everything I could. I watched every video. I don't think there's a video I haven't watched.
Mhm.
And started small and started training him on my own. And I spent 18 months of just committed to the training that I've read, that I've seen, talking to other handlers and piecing the tips together from everybody and making it work for Jack and I. And him and I have a very good bond. That dog is just, I think in some ways he's more my therapy dog than anything. He picked it up quickly, and I decided to take on, said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go big or go home. I tend to do that. I think we're all kind of in that boat in this service. We're all overachievers. So I went and had him certified under the American Working Dog Association, which a lot of our law enforcement dogs are certified here in my area. I don't know about everywhere. And I challenged myself, and I went down and took a whole day of certification and testing with him, and he passed. So he is now certified under the American Working Dog to work under human remains, which is phenomenal.
For people that aren't really picking up on it, the training was done by you, but even though the training was done, he still had to go through a certification course and essentially prove that he could do the job. So
yes, he had to go out and pass that. And that test really was nothing more than they would take you out with the dog, and you had to follow a certain protocol and rules to this certification. And he had to go out and test in different environments and find human remains and be able to indicate on them. And he had to find at least 3 of the 5 finds to pass his certification.
And how many did he pass?
4.
4? Heck yeah.
Yeah, he did.
That's good.
And the 5th was really handler error. I missed it. He didn't. Yeah. I did.
Can you explain what human remains detection training involves and why it's so demanding?
I found in our area specifically, we have a lot of apprehension dogs on the police departments. However, it's very limited that we have dogs in this area that are specifically trained on human remains. So one of the reasons why I decided to do it this way. So the human remains is you start, we all know there's 14 stages of decomp. So a dog has to be able to scent and smell every stage of that human decomp. So like, for instance, I started Jack on teeth. And as a puppy, that's what he would learn he imprinted on that scent, and he would go out and find the teeth. Then we would move on to bones of different decomp stages, dirt that a body is laid on. We go through about every scenario you could possibly imagine. I have found that so far my experience with him being in this work is, and we're still new, and he's only 2 years old. So, he's only been certified since August. So since then we have found that it's used a lot we've had a couple cases, and Jack was not one of the dogs in this area that was on this case, but you have where somebody's been kidnapped or taken and they've been killed, and then their body's been put somewhere else. So the dogs really have a huge part in, you have detectives that maybe are narrowing down a spot of interest. And rather than bring in a bunch of equipment and start just, excavating large amounts of areas, a dog can come in and pinpoint down a smaller location, almost exact, a lot of the times, in all honesty, exact to where that shallow grave or even a deep grave could be that somebody was placed. They've also come in handy with cold cases. I was fortunate enough to be asked to work a cold case out of another state, and I'm trying to think. She went missing in 85, an 8-year-old girl, and they were able to narrow down an area of interest, and Jack was able to go in as well as another dog, and they indicated it in an area, and it was it really helped with the state police being able to kind of reopen that cold case and look into it again. So I think the dogs play a very important role when it comes to missing people, crime scenes. Jack can also do articles. He's not certified yet. We're training where he can find those article things that are placed at crime scenes. So whether it be, gun casings, keys, credit cards, gloves, anything that could be involved that somebody has dropped in a crime scene, he can do as well. They're great for trace evidence with blood. So the amount of things that a dog like this can do is just endless. We don't have a lot of that here in my area. Most of the dogs that we do have on the departments are apprehension dogs. They do your narcotics, the things everybody's used to, explosives, narcotics. You have your fire marshals have their dogs for, they work separately. So having a dog that can kind of dual purpose things of this nature that are specific, they're not used often, but they're needed. It's been an experience. But he does do very well at it, and it's always interesting, and it's nice that if you can bring peace to a family in a situation like that, it's very rewarding. I do this for free. When I took this on, I really just wanted to be able to stay in the community and still figure out a way to make a difference. That's kind of helped me with my traumas and my processes, feeling like I could still give back. And I have found it very rewarding with the dog to be able to do that.
That's good. Has helping others change? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to word this because I didn't type it out right. Has helping others changed how you carry your own trauma?
Yes, I carry it, but I carry it differently. I carry it lighter. Sometimes doing this helps me come home, and there's been many a times I've done this, and I've reevaluated my own trauma or what my reactions have been to my trauma. And I have found that helping other people has helped me reevaluate my own traumas and the ways I handle them as well. So it almost gives me a different perspective to look at my own things personally, which has been surprising for me. I didn't anticipate that. Hence the reason I'm like, honestly, like doing things like this with you. I didn't think that I would be able to process all of the experiences I've had and look at them from almost a third party perspective. And it's because I'm hearing myself say them, or I'm watching somebody else go through something that was similar to me. And I hear what I'm saying to them. And I think, oh my gosh, I think I need to go home and say that to myself. Hang on, I did that. I felt like that. Why didn't I handle it like they are? So it's given me as many tools as I feel like I have probably handed out. So it's a great experience in that sense.
Oh, yeah. So the more you're doing, the more you're learning regardless.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's next for you and Jack?
I don't know. Right now, we are working on kind of just collectively networking and getting things out there. I've put some classes on at some of the local police or fire departments with the canine therapy part of things. I've been able to get in and take some classes myself, which I have not been able to do in years. It's been hard for me to get out at times. So this process has been huge for me. I've been getting out more. We have some cases to work coming up soon, which will be interesting. And we opened a first responder wellness center, maybe 20 minutes from me, which I was very fortunate to be able to go up and visit. It was an amazing experience. We needed this in our area tremendously. Also started communication with them that I'm gonna start taking Jack in once or twice a week to just hang out at the wellness house. So when the responders are there, Jack's just kind of a normal welcoming canine. He can go into the classrooms or sit during one of the responders' therapies. We have certified responder therapists that are at the wellness center. So we'll be able to incorporate Jack if a responder feels more comfortable going in and talking, and take the dog in with them. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see how that transpires and the difference that this is going to make with what I'm doing with him. So I'm excited to see that. I find that when I taught the classes that I have, I'll ask this question, and I do it on purpose. I'll say, what do you guys think about being able to talk about things, in this setting? Does anybody want to share something? Does anybody want to share an experience they've had that they think needs to be addressed, with the mental health side of things with first responders? You'll hear crickets. Nobody's speaking. And I'll wait. Nobody will have anything to say. I can go out and get the dog, and I bring the dog in. I say, well, now's a good time. We're all going to take a break. I'm going to bring Jack in, and we're just going to hang out with him for a little bit. And I'll wait that 10 or 15 minutes. Everybody's played with the dog, and he's running around while I'm up front. And I'll ask that question again, and all of a sudden, you're getting 5, 10 hands up. And it's always neat to see that little experiment of how the dynamic with the dog changes the ability for somebody to open up.
That's awesome.
So I'm curious to see in the future how this works with the wellness center. So we'll have to report back, and I'll have to let you know how that goes.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is Jack around to where he can come on camera or no?
He is. He's in. I have my husband has him kenneled up in the basement because he likes to be the center of attention. But if you would like to get him, it'd take me 2 seconds for him to wag himself in here. Give me a second.
Yeah, let's see the doggy.
Okay, bud. Come here, uppies. Up. Jack,
Oh, well, look at him.
Come here, bud. Come here. Say hi.
Oh,
This is Jack. Can you say
that's a
hi?
big boy.
He is about 100 pounds, and he's almost 2 years old.
That's a good boy.
You're a good boy, huh? He's very intrusive, and he likes to be the center of attention, so we put him in the basement. And he barks a lot.
This is a very informal podcast, so I'm not worried about that. So when Jack walks into the firehouse or station, what's the first thing you notice that changes in the room?
I notice it's almost immediate. It's like watching like somebody from your family walk in the house that's coming to visit. It's like, oh, hi. And all of a sudden everything just gets, the guys are watching TV and nobody's talking, and you just feel the, I don't want to be here tension in the room. It's been a long shift, and then Jack comes in. It's like seeing somebody you haven't seen in 2 years. It's like, oh, hi, how are you? And all of a sudden the fun in the room. People are smiling. They're just like I bring them in here, and everybody's, it just changes.
It's like
everybody's upbeat.
You could show up by yourself. They're like, why are you here? It's like you bring the dog, like, oh, you can come anytime.
Right. I don't exist. He's the celebrity. People don't know me, but they know my dog. And he's very, very attentive. He'll stay right here with me.
Oh, what's a good boy.
Like, he will not leave me, which is awesome. He's at my side 24/7.
So 4 more of these rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
What's one sign you see that tells you a first responder is struggling even when they say they're just fine?
You can almost, and I'm sure a lot of people understand this when I say it, you can just see the wear on their face. Like, I truly can. It's almost like you can see that the shoulder tension, they're just, elbows are in. It's almost like just trying to make yourself invisible, and you can just see it on somebody's face. And sometimes I think we come across as standoffish in that sense, but what it truly is that's what's happening to them. It's not a standoffish position. They don't have the tools or don't want to discuss whatever is bothering them. Like, it's almost like, just please go away. Don't ask me. So I do think,
felt that before.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people sometimes will take us as being kind of standoffish, or, oh, well, they don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to me. They think they're better. They think, no, it's almost like a defense mechanism for ourselves to protect ourselves. And it truly sometimes comes out incorrectly to other people.
So we kind of talked about this, but in your experience, do people open up faster to you or Jack?
Jack.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Jack.
It's the
Absolutely.
dog theory.
It is.
Uh,
Absolutely.
what's the biggest misconception first responders have about therapy dogs?
That there's something wrong with them immediately. Why does it have to be there's something wrong? Sometimes it's just the dog's just here to hang out and make life feel like normal while you're sitting on your shift for 24, 48 hours. The dog's just there to just, hey, it's something familiar. Doesn't mean there has to be something wrong. You know?
That's true. I mean, just because the dog makes you feel a certain way or you feel like, oh, well, maybe I do need to talk about something, doesn't mean you're broken, doesn't mean you're incapable of doing your job. It doesn't mean your badge is going to get taken from you. It just means, hey, talk about it. It's okay.
Absolutely. And sometimes the dog could be sitting there and that gives you that 10 minutes of decompression for yourself, that maybe 2 days from that point, you had that little bit of a break that you're thinking to yourself, you know what? Maybe I was having a bad day that day. And, you know, it gives you time to think about it and be like, hey, maybe I do want to talk to somebody. Just because the dog's there doesn't mean you have to talk right now. You may not want to talk about it another 2 months. Everybody's different.
So you said this is a question that's not on the list here, but something just came up in my head. You said you do this for free. How do you afford to do that?
I have a really great husband. He supports it. He supports me 100% with this. He helps me tremendously. He has helped from day one with this process. He goes and helps me train. He'll say to me, we need something. That's what overtime's for. Like, he truly has put his heart into this as much as I have. And I knew when I took the dog on, it was going to happen.
Do you ever miss your husband to the point where, like, maybe the dog comes second? Like, he's working so much and you're just like, I wish I had him here?
In fairness, no, I think sometimes it's the other way around. I'm with this dog 24/7. You don't understand. So, yeah, it's weird. But sometimes I feel like I replace my husband with the dog. But I think it comes from a therapeutic side of things for me right now. The dog is really helping
with
me
the
process.
dog, you're safe.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do balance it. Like, he makes sure financially that I have what I need to do this with the dog, right down to the vehicle and his cage system and anything I need, he makes sure we have. But when we do have time together, he has no problem going out with me with the dog. So I have a ridiculously good support team at home. I really do. I don't think I could do it without that. So we do try to balance it, but there are times, you know, if Jack's on the couch and my husband wants to sit down, he goes and finds another chair to sit in because the dog takes precedence.
He's like, dang it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So on the last question, on the hardest days, what does Jack do to ground you the fastest?
It sounds so cliche, but I mean, it's true. He can lay down at my feet. I could be having a cup of coffee and he'd be sitting at my side or laying at my feet. And I find myself a lot of times, I actually focus in on his breathing, his presence, and it distracts me. And it's such a calming thing for me. I'm sure everybody's different, but for me, with him being at home with me all the time, that is, his presence does it for me. Just that calm presence where he's just laying at my feet. I feel protected because I did go through a lot of trying to process the trauma of, like, I used to sleep on my couch where I could hear my front door and my back door. I was afraid to fall asleep. I still have a hard time with night terrors and things like that. So just the feeling of that dog against me or hearing his breathing changes things for me. It's like my calm in the storm.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I was in your position where I was scared that a gang member was calling my house personally and was threatening me, saying that he was going to take me out, you know, I don't think I would have stayed and tried to battle that, especially if law enforcement's not doing anything about it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a pretty okay, strong dude. I could handle myself,
Yeah.
but no way am I just gonna sit there and wait. Either I'm gonna go to prison because
Right.
I'm gonna go find you, or
Right.
I'm gonna run and
Right.
and make sure that you can never find me. So congrats on
Yeah.
you, because I couldn't do what you've done.
If you run, they won. And that's the only thing I have left to hang on to, is you're
At
not
this
going to beat
point-
me at this.
At this point, on my own personal thought of that, I just go, I don't care if you win. Not when it comes to that. I'm good.
I'm going to see it through. That's it.
Yeah.
I can do it. And there's days
Well-
I don't leave certain areas because I just have that day where I feel like I'm going to run into them. Maybe there's times I can't even go to Walmart because I just have that feeling, but I have a lot of good days, so I'll take them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to close out the podcast, and then you can just stay on. We can chat, or you can get
Awesome.
off, whatever you want to do.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, my name is Isaac Poti. I've been your host here for Tales from the Tailboard podcast, where I interview all first responders and anyone in between, from law enforcement to firefighting to dispatch to military. So if you have any just stories that you'd like to share, please feel free to reach out to me, and we can get you an episode on, and we can just talk about it, and we can not only learn from you, but I can learn from you as well. With that being said, today's guest was Chrissy, the K9 handler, police officer, dispatcher. She is your peer support specialist. So, Chrissy, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Anybody that needs it, reach out.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Dispatch, medic 1, show medic 1 en route.
Getting high